When the hunt nears. Anya tightened the straps on her satchel, checking that her flashlight and GPS were secure. The frozen tundra stretched endlessly before her, a pale expanse of snow and ice under the weak Sunday. 10 miles to Andrey's base. That was the plan. Efficient, simple, and hopefully uneventful. A sharp crackle burst through the walkie-talkie sitting on the desk next to her. She picked it up and slightly dialed the volume up. "Hurry up, Anya," Andrey's voice came, teasing and light. "I'm getting bored sitting here all alone." She raised an eyebrow, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. Bored? After all morning surveying ice and snow? Somehow I doubt that. "Trust me," he said with a chuckle. "I need rescuing from my own thrilling solitude." Anya shook her head, exhaling a cloud of breath into the cold air. "I'll save you from your complaining first." "Fair enough," Andrey replied, his tone mockingly offended. "But seriously, make it quick. 10 miles can feel like 100 if you drag your feet." "Noted," she said, clipping the walkie to her shoulder. "And don't freeze to death while you're waiting." "Wouldn't dream of it. Just get here, slowpoke." Anya slung her satchel over her shoulder after double-checking the contents. She tapped the walkie-talkie. "I'm moving out," she said, her voice steady despite the chill biting at her cheeks. 10 miles to base. Don't get too comfortable while you wait." A brief burst of static crackled through the device, making her frown. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," Andrey's voice replied after a pause, calm as ever. "Could be the aurora messing with the signal. Nothing to worry about, probably." Anya shrugged, though her eyes flicked to a shadow among the snow-drifted rocks. A wolf stood there, its fur blending with the pale landscape, eyes locked on her. She froze for a heartbeat, then stepped forward, holding up a hand. "Shoo," she said sharply, a low edge to her tone. "Go on." The wolf didn't move immediately. It stayed rooted in the snow, tilting its head, studying her as if assessing her. Her pulse quickened, though she kept her voice firm. "Get out of here." Finally, after a tense moment, the wolf turned and padded away silently, melting back into the whiteness. Anya let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her boots crunched over the snow as she resumed her trek, the walkie crackling faintly again with residual static. The tundra seemed to hold its breath around her, vast, empty, and strangely expectant. She glanced over her shoulder once, catching the lingering imprint of paw prints in the snow. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Animals, she reminded herself, were more trouble than company. Anya trudged through the snow, each step crunching sharply beneath her boots. The sun hung low over the tundra, turning the endless white expanse into a wash of pale gold and gray. After nearly an hour of walking, she decided to rest. Dropping her satchel to the ground with a soft thud, she pulled out a small portion of food and unwrapped it carefully. At the edge of her vision, movement caught her eye. A rabbit, its fur marked with strange, dark spots, sat just a few feet away. Anya narrowed her eyes, gripping a piece of bread in her hand. "Don't get too close," she warned softly, tossing the bread near the rabbit. The creature sniffed it, nibbled, and devoured it eagerly. "Okay, now shoo, iди udalиться," she said sharply, stomping her boot once. The rabbit twitched its nose, hesitated for a heartbeat, then bounded away into the fading light. Anya exhaled and finished her small snack before packing up her satchel. She set off again, the cold really starting to get to her now. A faint, earthy scent drifted on the wind, and a shadow flickered ahead. It was massive, far larger than any rabbit or fox, moving with astonishing speed. Before she could react, it slammed into her. "Ah!" she screamed, tumbling down a steep slope. Snow sprayed around her, rocks scraped her hands and arms, and her satchel caught on a jagged branch before slipping free. She landed hard at the bottom, wind knocked from her lungs. It took a long moment before she was able to catch her breath again. When she did, She pushed herself upright and fumbled for her walkie-talkie. "Andrey?" she called, her voice tight but steady. "Anya? Everything okay?" he replied, static crackling over the line. I think some kind of deer, or at least that's what it looked like, just knocked me off course. I tumbled down a slope and can't climb back up," she said, brushing snow off her jacket. "I'm going to have to take a detour to get back on track." "Oi," Andrey said, his voice calm but tinged with concern. "Are you all right?" "Nothing broken," she replied, flexing her sore fingers. "Just scraped up and off course. I'll keep moving. It'll take longer, but I can manage." "Copy that," he said, and there was a brief pause before his teasing returned. "Try not to piss off any more, dear." Anya let out a dry laugh. "Shut up and help me get back on track." There was no reply. She waited a moment before pressing the walkie-talkie again. "Andrey? Listen, you're—" The signal wavered, a burst of static interrupting him. He tried again. "Make sure you—" And then his voice was drowned out, replaced by a high-pitched screech of interference. Anya gritted her teeth and tapped the walkie. "Figures," she muttered under her breath. She shook her head and clipped it back to her shoulder. There would be no instructions tonight. She sighed, glancing at the snow-covered ground. The sun had dipped fully below the horizon, leaving the tundra in dim twilight. There was nothing to do but rest and wait for morning. Pulling her jacket tighter, she set up a small sheltered area near a cluster of rocks. She retrieved her flashlight, sweeping the beam over the surrounding snow to inspect the area before sleeping. Her eyes caught something unsettling. Tracks that were too large for a rabbit, too irregular for any deer, and a series of claw marks dug into the frozen snow nearby. Her pulse quickened, but she forced herself to calm down. "Bears, maybe," she muttered, her breath puffing out in small clouds. "Must be bears dragging themselves through the snow. Makes sense." The explanation felt flimsy, even as she said it, but Anya tucked her satchel close, retrieved her small food rations, and ate slowly to calm herself. The wind whistled low through the rocks, carrying the distant, hollow cry of something unseen, but she kept her focus tight, rational. Finally, she settled down, curling into her jacket with her flashlight clipped to the side. Her eyes lingered on the claw marks a moment longer, the shadows stretching across the snow, before fatigue claimed her. The cold was still sharp, biting at her fingertips and nose, but she breathed steadily, convincing herself that morning would bring answers. Sleep came, uneasy and shallow, as the wilderness held its quiet vigil over her. The sun was just beginning to rise when Anya pulled herself out of her bedroll, brushing the frost from her coat. The tundra was quiet, the air sharp with cold. She bent to check her satchel, but something nearby caught her eye. It was the rabbit from yesterday. At least, it looked like the same one. Only now, its fur was crudely stitched, clumps of blood dark against the snow. The animal was standing upright, stiff in an unnatural way. Anya frowned and stepped closer, her flashlight beam sweeping over it. Thin cords were tied around its legs, staked into the snow to hold it in place. It was not alive at all. It was a trap. She drew in a slow breath, straightening as her eyes swept the clearing around her. The trees at the edge of the tundra seemed too still, the snow too quiet. She took a careful step back from the rabbit, then another, her shoulders tense. She pulled her walkie-talkie from her shoulder. "Andrey, I need to tell you something," she said, her voice even but low. "A rabbit I saw yesterday appeared. It's stitched up, bloody, and tied upright with strings. Someone set it up as some kind of trap." There was static before his voice came through. "A trap? You're sure?" "I'm sure," Anya replied, glancing back over her shoulder at the empty expanse. "Andrey, are you pranking me? Tell me the truth." "No," he said firmly. "I'm not. I would never do something like that." Anya rubbed her forehead with her gloved hand, still edging a little farther from the grotesque setup. "Because it feels like I am going crazy. This doesn't make any sense. I believe you, Andrey said after a pause. Strange things are happening out here too. I saw some fresh claw marks on the trees out here, but the bears should be hibernating. It's not just you. Anya lowered the walkie, glancing once more at the rabbit, its body stiff and held by strings. She clipped the walkie-talkie back to her shoulder and muttered under her breath, Ladna, all right. She backed away a few more steps before turning to continue, her mind turning over the thought again and again. Whatever was going on, it was not her imagination, and it was not a joke. Anya, listen. Andrey's voice crackled through. Let's just get you here safe and sound. Head toward the ridge just past the frozen creek. You'll see a cluster of rocks shaped like a wall. Once you reach that, stay on the left side of the hill. Don't wander into the valley. Keep an eye out for any unusual tracks, all right? I've got it, she said, her gaze following the horizon. Ridge past the creek, rocks like a wall, left side of the hill. Noted. Good. Be careful out there. I'll check in when I can. Anya adjusted the straps of her satchel and pushed forward. After a while, something shifted in the distance. She stopped and squinted. A wolf stood there, its fur blending almost perfectly with the snow, staring at her. Her pulse quickened. Shoo, she called, waving her arm. Go on. Get out of here. The wolf didn't move. It only stared, calm and steady. Pashol, she snapped, her voice cutting through the quiet. For a moment, the animal held its ground. Then it dipped its head, dropped something onto the snow, and walked away without a sound. Anya frowned and hesitated, scanning the empty tundra. Slowly, she approached the spot where the wolf had stood. Her boots crunched in the snow as she bent down, brushing frost aside. A sealed pack of food lay there, edges stiff with ice. She turned it over in her hands, checking the seal. It was untouched. Real food. Her stomach knotted with both suspicion and relief. Supplies were running low, and whatever this was, she needed it. She tucked the pack into her satchel, casting one last glance toward the direction the wolf had gone. Spasiba, I guess, she muttered, pulling her coat tighter before setting off again, keeping the ridge and rocky wall in her sights. Anya trudged through the snow, the cold biting at her cheeks, her eyes fixed on the ridge Andrey had told her about. The jagged rocks jutted from the tundra like broken teeth, just as he had said. She paused and spoke into the walkie-talkie. I see the ridge. The rocks look like a wall. What's next? Good, Andrey replied. Keep to the left side of the hill as you move past it. Watch carefully and don't get distracted. Anya nodded and started forward again, the snow crunching beneath her boots. Then, something flickered at the edge of her vision. She froze, squinting. At first, she thought it was a person, standing perfectly still and staring right at her. As she focused, the figure shifted, and her stomach turned cold. It was not human. Its head was elongated like a deer's, twisted with antlers that scraped the gray sky. Its body was impossibly tall and skeletal, the bones visible beneath patches of loose, hanging flesh that swung with each slight movement, seemingly held only by threads. Limbs stretched in unnatural angles, long and thin, giving it a loping, jerking gait. Where eyes should have been, there was only darkness, hollow sockets that seemed to swallow the light around it. The creature's presence pressed into her chest, a weight of hunger and malevolence that made her legs go rigid. Anya's breath caught, and for a moment she could do nothing but stare back at the creature, her pulse hammering in her ears. Every instinct screamed to run, but fear had her rooted to the spot as the creature watched, unblinking and utterly wrong. Anya froze as the creature's twisted skeletal limbs began moving, loping forward in a way that made no sense. Its antlered head swung from side to side, and it let out a high-pitched scream that cut through the biting wind. She spun and ran, boots scraping against the snow, but the creature was impossibly fast. In a heartbeat, It closed the distance, and its long, clawed hands grabbed her with a crushing grip. She was hurled through the air, her body slamming against a jagged boulder with a sickening thud. Pain exploded across her side and head, stars dancing in her vision. She tried to push herself up, but the world tilted violently, and darkness began creeping in at the edges of her sight. Through the haze of pain, she heard another sound, low, growling, and filled with warning. The creature screeched again, and a blur of gray lunged at it, the wolf. Teeth bared, claws digging into snow and ice, it attacked the monstrous figure, snapping and biting. The sounds of the fight, the creature's roars, the wolf's snarls, and the thud of bodies colliding, echoed in the frozen tundra. Anya's eyelids grew heavy, and the slope beneath her seemed to vanish as darkness pulled her under. The last thing she registered was the chaotic struggle, the monstrous roars and feral snarls reverberating around her before everything went black. Anya's eyes snapped open to the sharp bite of cold air, and a wave of panic hit her chest. Her hands clutched at the icy rock, but her weight was precarious. Somehow, she realized she wasn't fully holding herself up. Her coat had snagged on a jagged ledge, keeping her from plunging straight down. Her legs swung helplessly over the abyss, and pain lanced through her side and shoulder. "Oh no, oh no," she whispered, voice trembling. The wind tore at her. Her satchel, walkie-talkie, and supplies were gone. Nothing but the frayed edge of her coat and the rough stone kept her from falling. She glanced up, squinting against the pale sunlight. Hours had passed since she had last been conscious, the sun lower in the sky than she remembered. Her body ached, her muscles screamed, but panic wouldn't help. She needed to get back on solid ground. Gripping the rock as best she could, she worked her way toward a sturdier section of ledge, pulling herself up by the coat and clutching any handhold she could find. Her fingers bled and trembled, every movement sending sharp jolts of pain through her arms and side. Slowly, painstakingly, she hauled herself higher. Finally, she scrambled onto solid snow, collapsing in a shiver of exhaustion. Her coat had torn in places, but it had saved her from the drop. She struggled to catch her breath, scanning the empty tundra. Then she saw it, the wolf. Its fur was matted with blood, one leg stiff, but it waited a short distance away, dark eyes fixed on her, patient and almost expectant. It watched her for a moment before limping in the direction she was heading. Anya pushed herself up, grabbed a sturdy stick from the snow to steady herself, and limped forward. She had no choice but to follow it, step by careful step, every nerve screaming, still trembling from the climb and the narrow escape. The cold settled heavier as night approached, the sky darkening into deep shades of blue and gray. Anya's body ached with every step, muscles trembling, her side and shoulder still raw from the fall. She leaned heavily on the stick she carried, trying to keep pace with the wolf. The wolf stopped frequently, ears pricked, growling low and sharp at things Anya could not see. She tried to follow its gaze, scanning the frozen wilderness, but she couldn't make out anything in the pitch black of the night. The growls made her stomach tighten, a constant reminder that something was out there, just beyond her sight. Exhaustion weighed her down, and each step became more of a struggle. The snow crunched beneath her boots, cold seeping into her bones, but she forced herself to keep moving. Ahead, the glint of ice caught her eye. A frozen river stretched across the landscape, its surface uneven and brittle. The wolf approached the edge, sniffing the air and growling again. It looked back at her, urging her forward, but she hesitated. A sudden blur flashed at the corner of her vision, moving with impossible speed. Her heart skipped a beat. She whipped her head around, searching the empty shadows. Nothing moved. The wind carried only the faint scrape of ice and the wolf's low growl. She swallowed hard, her breath trembling in the cold air. The wolf paused at the edge of the river, its paws on the brittle ice, and she could sense something unseen moving just beyond her vision. Pain shot through her body, urging her to stop, but she forced herself to take a step forward, She had no choice but to keep moving. Anya gripped her stick tightly, the rough wood biting into her hands, as she stepped onto the frozen river. The ice groaned beneath her weight, sending tremors up through her boots. The wolf padded ahead, steady and deliberate, ears flicking toward the tree line with every movement. Anya kept her eyes on it, following its careful steps while glancing over her shoulder every few paces, scanning the dark, snow-draped trees. Nothing moved. Nothing stirred. Slowly, a fragile sense of safety began to creep in. She allowed herself a deep, shuddering breath, telling herself they were halfway across and would soon be out of the forest. Then the sound cut through the night like a blade. A high-pitched, echoing shriek ripped through the air, carrying over the ice and snow. The wolf froze, growl low in its throat, and Anya's stomach dropped. She turned her head, heart hammering, but saw only shadows swaying in the wind. The sound ended as suddenly as it had begun, leaving a suffocating silence in its wake. Her relief was short-lived. From the corner of her eye, movement flickered. The creature erupted from the tree line with impossible speed, skeletal limbs loping in unnatural angles, loose flesh swinging from its body like tattered ribbons. Its antlered head swiveled toward them, empty darkness where its eyes should have been. A guttural roar tore from its throat as it charged. Anya's blood ran cold. Her boots slipped across the ice as she pushed herself to move faster, lungs burning with each ragged breath. The wolf raced ahead, ears flat and teeth bared, its pace unyielding, but the creature was closing in with a terrifying, impossible speed. Her mind raced, searching for anything she could do. There was no time to think, no time to hesitate. The creature's roar grew closer, echoing in her skull, shaking the ice beneath their feet. It was coming too fast. It was too strong. Then, instinct took over. Anya raised her stick high and swung it down at the ice directly in the path of the charging creature. There was a sharp crack as the brittle surface splintered, jagged lines racing outward. The creature's roar split the night as the ice beneath it gave way completely. Water surged up around its legs, icy and unforgiving, but in a frantic motion, it reached out and grabbed Anya. Her hands scrabbled against the slick surface as she was yanked toward the freezing river. Cold water lapped at her boots and legs, biting into her through her clothes. The wolf lunged, teeth gripping her coat, claws scrabbling for purchase on the ice. It growled, anchoring her as best it could, trying to pull her back from the plunging creature. Anya's muscles screamed with effort, every movement burning with pain, but the creature's strength was overwhelming. Instinct and sheer desperation took over. She twisted her body and drove her boot into the creature's chest, hard. It let out a bone-chilling screech as it loosened its grip. With one final kick, she sent it flailing backward into the icy water. Anya gasped for breath as she fought to get to her feet. She shivered violently as the wolf nudged her forward, urging her to keep moving. The creature thrashed briefly beneath the river, bubbles breaking the surface, then sank out of sight. Heart hammering, muscles trembling from exertion and cold, Anya pushed herself forward, following the wolf. Step by careful step, they made their way across the rest of the frozen river, each crunch of snow underfoot echoing in the silent, frigid night. The far bank finally rose before them, and they scrambled onto solid ground, soaked, exhausted, but alive. Anya stumbled onto the snowy clearing. Relief hit her like a wave as she saw one of their small camps ahead, a cluster of tents and supplies offering a fragile sense of safety in the frozen wilderness. She rushed into the tent, breathing heavily, and fumbled for her walkie-talkie, only to remember it had been lost with all her other gear. Frantically, she rifled through the supplies inside the tent and found a spare walkie-talkie. She pressed the button and called out, her voice shaking. "Andrey, can you hear me? It's Anya. I've been attacked. I'm hurt. Some thing. It was chasing me. I just made it to the camp. Where are you?" Static crackled through the speaker, and then silence. Her stomach tightened. There was no response. Swallowing hard, She moved to a small stationary communication device set up for long-distance contact. Her fingers trembled as she activated it and spoke into the microphone. "This is Anya Petrov, Tundra Survey Team 3. I've been injured and attacked by something. I don't know what it was. I need immediate assistance. My supplies are gone, and I—" A calm, firm voice cut in. "Anya, we hear you. Please, slow down and take a breath. You are safe at the camp, correct?" "Yes. Yes. I think so. But there's something out there. It's fast. It attacked me. Anya," the operator interrupted gently. "We understand. Rescue teams are en route and will arrive in 2 days. Do not leave the camp. Hunker down in your tent and tend to any injuries. You will be safe until help arrives." Anya sagged against the tent wall, exhaustion and relief washing over her simultaneously. She worked to clean and bandage her wounds as best she could, muscles trembling from pain and cold. Outside, the wind howled across the pale landscape. She could see the wolf lingering for a moment on the edge of the clearing, then disappeared into the darkness. "Thank you," she whispered as she watched. Anya exhaled shakily as she focused back toward her, forcing herself to stay calm, knowing she would have to wait in the tent for 2 long, cold days. Anya had just calmed herself down, trying to push the fatigue, pain, and stress from her body when she heard the faint crunch of snow outside. Her heart skipped a beat, and she froze, every nerve on edge. For a moment, terror took over, and she thought it might be the creature returning. Slowly, she rose to her feet, wincing as her injuries protested, and cautiously approached the tent flap. She peeked out, eyes scanning the snowy clearing. There he was, Andrey. Her chest heaved in relief, a flood of hope washing over her. She stumbled forward, calling his name softly at first, then louder. "Andrey? Slava Bogu!" He did not move. Her pace quickened as she stepped into the snow, each careful footfall crunching under her boots. And then she froze. The pale figure standing before her did not shift, did not respond. Horror began to claw at her chest as she drew closer and finally saw it. His skin was pulled tight, seams running along his arms and torso, stitched together crudely like the rabbit from before. His eyes were hollow and unblinking, and his posture was stiff, unnatural. String lay stretched out over the snow just a short distance in front of him. A sick realization hit her. It was a trap, and though Andrey was no longer there, she wasn't alone.